listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. Thanks for tuning in. I'm happy to be playing with you again. You know, most conscious creators know that self-love is an important way for us to line up with what we want. We know that how we feel is the determining factor about what we can attract. And if we don't feel good about ourselves, that's a pretty strong misalignment, which means that, in fact, I am of the opinion that practicing self-love, it's the number one most powerful thing we can do to align to what we want. How do you like that? That's a pretty strong statement. I know a lot of powerful alignment methods, but I don't think anything beats self-love. And I probably think that because a lot of us are lacking it, or we have room for improvement on it anyway. I'll put it that way. So a lot of conscious creators know that self-love matters, but not everyone knows how to practice it. It might be like thinking some abstract stuff about what it means, but when it comes to, okay, how to actually engage it in daily life, some people feel a little stuck about that. That's what I want to remedy with this podcast. So I want to share my top 5 favorite self-love practices. Some of these you might already practice. If not, engaging any of these, it would be really good for your manifesting mojo. I'm smiling already at the thought of what can happen for you when you turn this magic on in your life. And for anyone who already is practicing this can be really good reinforcement to keep that up. I do have an ebook on this subject, The Art of Self-Love, that goes deep on the subject, but I think everyone should at least know the basics of how to treat themselves well. Our manifesting success depends on it, since the universe can only be as good to us as we are to ourselves. So I'm going to burn through these pretty quickly, but I think at the end of this, you're going to have some very clear, practical ideas about how to be better to yourself. So, first on my list, it's to say something nice every night to yourself. I learned this one from Jack Canfield, who shared about his practice of, at the end of the night, after he brushed his teeth, while he was still in front of the mirror, he would look himself eye to eye and say a couple of nice things to himself. That's it. The same way he'd say nice things to his kids or to a valued employee, he'd just say a couple of nice things to himself while he's looking himself in the eye. He said that after 40 days of that practice, his negative self-talk completely disappeared. Okay, that's pretty powerful testimonial to engage this. And it's actually, some people find it uncomfortable, and if it's hard to do, I think that just shows how much more important it is that you get a handle on self-love. My biggest challenge with it was remembering to do it. So I put a little sticky note on the mirror that said, "Who do you love?" with a big smiley face. And I'd put it kind of off to the side, but whenever I'd see the sticky note, there would be me. So I'd be asking, "Who do you love?" And there's me right there in the reflection. So it was my fun reminder to say a couple of nice things. And that might be on how I handled something that day, or what a good hair day I'm having, or how cute my outfit is, or whatever I could think of. Just 2 or 3 nice things. That's all I'm shooting for. That's how I practice it. And I can vouch for how powerful it is. In fact, my overall self-talk improved throughout the day just from that nightly practice. So I'm a big fan of that one, saying something nice to yourself every night. And I think Jack's onto something when he says, do it in the mirror. I would practice that if you can. Okay, my second favorite self-love practice, this is going to sound kind of big, but I like it. It's to say yes to what you want. And that includes saying no. When you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. So like, last night, you know what I wanted? My sweetie was having Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge Chunk. I think that's what Ben & Jerry's. And that's not my favorite chocolate fudge brownie, but he was having his favorite ice cream, and I didn't want to unthaw mine. I like it really melty. Doesn't everyone like their ice cream really melty? Anyway, I didn't want to unthaw mine, but he was having his ice cream and he was just polite. He was just being polite. Hey, do you want some? Oh, yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I said yes to Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge Chunk, and I ate half his pint of ice cream. I'm a fan of ice cream. And he was kind of making note that I was eating. Look, he would probably say most. I think it was half, maybe a little more than half. But yeah, I wanted it. But then get this. So I handed it back to him. And then he ate some more. And then he had a couple bites left and he handed it back to me to finish, except I didn't want any more. I'd ate my fill. And I said I didn't want any more. And he kept handing it to me because he didn't want any more either. But I didn't want any. I didn't want any more ice cream. So I said no. And look, I'm a person who is trained to finish their plate. You don't throw food away. So this was a moment, especially something as good as Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge Chunk. So I said no to it after I'd said yes to eating half of it. That's what I'm talking about here. It's saying yes to what we want. When he kept pushing it in my face, I'm like, throw it away if you don't want it. So then he finished it because he doesn't say yes to what he wants as well as I do. The other day I found a piece of art online. I'm still filling a lot of rooms here in this new place that I bought. And I need some art. I found one. So pretty and expensive. I'm like, why is this so expensive? This other art is so reasonably priced. Why is this one so expensive? And I tried to like something else better, but I didn't like anything else better. I liked that expensive one. And I was thinking, you know what? If this were someone that I loved, if this were a good friend of mine, and she was drooling over this thing that she wanted that she could afford, this was not, it wouldn't put her in any financial jeopardy. She's got the money and she really, really wanted it. I would say, girl, have it. I would encourage her to let herself have what she wants. And so that's what I did for my own self. That's what I'm talking about, saying yes to what we want. And sometimes for some people, self-love might be the opposite of what it was for me when I said yes to buying it. It might be saying no to something so that you can feel better about your financial situation. It's potentially different for each of us, and only you know what your version of love looks like. So the way you practice this is highly, highly personal. And I want to say that anyone who's listening to this thinking, yeah, I'd like to say yes to quitting my job, but I can't. Or I'd like to say yes to divorcing my husband, but I can't. You know what? I just would invite you to rethink that you can't say yes to what you want. No matter our circumstances, there is a way, based on the options that we are allowing ourselves, that we can choose what we prefer, even if we're working with less than our ultimate ideal options. Those questions those thoughts are highly worth questioning, but that's another blog post. Just saying yes to what you can't when you're able to. That's a really powerful practice of self-love, including things like the sleep that you get and the food that you're eating, the things that you say yes to and the things you say no to. It's good self-love. Okay, third on my list. I like this one. It's to write a worthiness reminder. In fact, not just one, but a whole page of them. I call this the I am worthy affirmations. And I am worthy doesn't have to be the key word or the phrase that you use. I used it because it's short. And when I first did this practice, I just wanted to bang it out real fast. I wasn't taking it too seriously. But by the time I got to, so I get out a blank piece of paper and you write down on each line, I am worthy. That's it. I am worthy affirmations, like 25 on a page or however long your page is. But by the time I got to the end of the page, it felt so good. It was crazy how good it felt. I wasn't expecting it to feel that good, but it did. So I wanted to drag it out a little. So I went to the top of the page and I started writing longer ones. I finished each sentence with something different. I am worthy of good friends. I am worthy of fun times. I am worthy of ideal health. Whatever came to mind that I wanted, I just wrote it down, just to really bask in that vibration even longer than I did. And I have to tell you, the first time I did that exercise, I did it at night before I went to bed, and in the morning, my world was exploding with good news. It was in my inbox. It was in my mailbox. It was on my voicemail. Everywhere I turned, there was good news. The blessings were raining on me. So I was a pretty big fan of the practice right off the bat. And I think there are a variety of ways for us to engage this, the reminding ourselves of our inherent, automatic divinity and perfection. However you want to do that, it's powerful. Writing it down really works for me. but you can adjust that one to whatever you would prefer. My fourth favorite habit of self-love is to upgrade my daily self-talk. This is related to saying the nice words at night practice, but it's expanded by consciously paying attention to how I'm speaking to myself and about myself during waking hours. The template that I use there, if this isn't something that I would say to someone that I loved, then I shouldn't be saying it to my own self. What I try to do in my self-talk is to give myself the benefit of the doubt, to be generous in my self-evaluations, and highly encouraging with my inner dialogue. It might sound odd at first, but it's really worth getting comfortable with and getting a good handle on. Your gremlins, you know, those inner thoughts that are all critical and judgmental. Those gremlins will give you lots of chances to practice this if you choose to engage this act of self-love, but it is really, really good for your overall vibration to master your self-talk. And my fifth favorite practice for engaging self-love is to handle myself with care. And I do mean literally how I handle myself, like the way I brush my hair, or the way I put clothes on, or the way I'm soaping up in the shower, or putting on lotion. Every one of those is an opportunity to touch myself the way someone who loved and appreciated and adored themselves would. Not with irritation or judgment or distraction, but with mindful, conscious love. You might get a sense of how much better that feels. Like if, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever put clothes on one of your little kids or your little dogs, or if you've ever brushed someone else's hair or put lotion on your sweetheart, it's different probably than how you do it for yourself. So learning how to do that, to handle yourself with that kind of love, there are good vibrations in that. So if you think about like the way you scratch your dog's head, or the way you wash your baby's hair, or the way you share a really good bite of dessert with your sweetie, we know what it's like to handle someone with love. And when you start handling yourself that way, you are going to realize how nice this practice is. We are collecting other ways of practicing self-love over at the blog. So if you look for the post titled Best Self-Love Practices, you can find more ways to engage this, what I think is the most powerful vibration shifter out there, finding ways to love yourself more. So I'd love to hear yours if you want to pop over to the blog and share. Thanks for listening, and happy manifesting.